Hello again, Rochelle.
Yeah, right.
I am. Have you just rolled out of bed then? Like you said you were going to?
No, I've had a cooked breakfast and everything this morning.
Have you? I have as well. I've been looked after. Had a bacon sandwich from the husband after last night. So yes, no messing last night, was there, Rochelle? On stage, inspiring all the lasses.
It's funny because like when I did it and I came off, and then Rebecca was sat next to us. She was like, "That was really good." I was like, "I can't remember what I said." Like, I still get a bit panicky.
I know, and I'm the same. And we'll talk about all of this today, like imposter syndrome, everything that you talked about on stage, Rochelle, because it really did mirror a lot of the stuff that I talk about a lot in the Northern Lass Lounge, self-belief, finding your superpower. And it was interesting to find out that we have a very similar background.
I know.
Or is it in Seaham? I don't know. But you're a woman on a mission, and I've had loads of amazing messages, which I'm sure you have, about how much you've inspired. And I know lots of people came up to you last night and taught you. So tell our listeners all about Rochelle. Just go for it.
So I'll do what I did last night. So I was talking to my husband about, that you'd invited us to come and speak, and I was saying, like, I don't know what I'm going to say. And like Rob, being a big Star Wars fan, was like, just tell him your origin story. So started talking about the fact that I come from a mining background, like yourself included. There was actually a couple of people in there last night that actually had the same background, like, which is funny and not unusual either. So went to school, left school, really wanted to go to uni. And like last night I was saying, the only way that we could afford uni was because when my dad passed away, he had life insurance money left over. And I remember going to my mum and saying, "I really want to go to uni." And she was like, "Right, there's a pot of money, but you've got to make a choice." And I was like, "Make a choice?" And she says, "You can either have a big white wedding or you can go to uni." She was like, "I can't afford both." And I was like, "Oh my days, like what a decision." And I was like laughing, and I says, "No, I want to go to uni. Like, we'll do that." So I ended up going to uni. But it's mad that like that was the only way that I was able to do it, like through a family bereavement. Like that shouldn't be standard practice. Like you should just be able to afford uni. And I think this was just before the prices went up as well. So this was just before it was £3,000, just over £3,000 a year. But now it's like 9, isn't it? It's
How old are you, Michelle? Sorry, if you don't mind us asking.
34.
Oh God, you're younger than me. Like I remember when I first went to uni, and I was lucky because I was one of those families that could afford it. But I remember my mum and dad going, because we work, we have to pay so much.
Oh yeah.
It was a conversation at the time, yeah.
Yeah, it is. And because it goes off your parents' income or your household income, on paper you might get that money in, but in reality everyone's got bills, everyone's got like the things they need to pay for. And just because your parents have that money on paper doesn't mean to say that they can afford to actually send. And I think that is something, like, if I ever had the chance, I'd definitely try and change tuition fees, the way that it's organized. Like, it just seems that it's only suitable for a certain percentage of people, and like it's not inclusive of everybody. So I went to uni. I went to Norwich School of Art. I think it's Norwich University now. Did fashion and textiles, which I can't believe it. You actually did as well. I couldn't believe it. So did fashion and textiles. I went to Paris Fashion Week. Did some work with Gareth Pugh. Gareth Pugh's also from the Northeast. That was really good. And then when I graduated, you have to do your graduate show, your degree show. We did one in London. I can't remember what the building was called. But I'd like got headhunted, and this company had come over and said, like, "Look, we'd love you to come for an interview." And I was like, "Oh my days, this is amazing." And then when I got there, they were like, "Right, we're going to employ you, but it needs to be as like a freelance artist, like what you're doing now. But you need to be based in London." And there was no way that I could afford it. Like there was no way. Fresh out of uni, didn't have a full-time job. Like I couldn't set up a business straight away. So I came home, moved back in with Mum in the box room. and
Was
stayed
there,
there.
was there an element of you, Rochelle, that regretted doing that at the time? Were you like, oh, have I done the right thing again?
Oh yeah, massive. And I like there was a lot of opportunities that I was offered. Like for instance, there's an artist called Hussein Shalan, who does like smart textiles, who does things like do you remember Take That? Do you remember Take That when we were on stage and they had those multicolored jackets that lit up with all the LEDs and stuff like that?
Oh, yes.
So that artist was doing a project like that, and they'd again headhunters and said, like, because of my degree, I did smart textiles. They're like, do you want to come to London? We've got a job, like we're doing something for like a high profile artist. Do you want to come? And I couldn't even afford the train ticket. Like it's just too expensive. Like for anyone who wants to be in, you know, like to have those opportunities, it does feel like you need to have money. Like you need to have money to be able, like university now. So when you have to go and do work experience, like a lot of them just expect you to go and do it for free. People can't afford to go and work for free now. Like it doesn't work like that. You might have been able to do that years ago, but there's no way. Bus fares, train fares, like it was just too expensive. So that was something else I turned down because I couldn't afford to physically get from A to B to go and like access these opportunities. So I started teacher training, and now I'm a secondary school teacher, and I teach a lot of the kids who come from the same background as me. So when I'm teaching them, and you know, I think that it doesn't. I'm not saying that it makes us a better teacher by a long shot, but I just bear that in mind, right? And that's all anyone can do. Like just bear in mind that everybody comes from like a different background. Like everyone's not the same, and if they can't access those opportunities, like as a teacher, like as a county councillor, as like whoever you are, you need to try and make sure that everybody has like the same access. Doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter.
When you said that last night, it really rings true with how you look at yourself and your background, and how that helps you understand children a little bit more. So like when I go into schools now, I think I get so much of an impact. I mean, I didn't think I was going to at first, but I do get so much of an impact now. And I think it's because I consider the school, I consider the area, the family situations, and I adapt my style, you know? And I think that's really important, isn't it, when you're going into specifically children, because they'll just tell you if they're not.
They will. Yeah.
So we met 3 years ago, didn't we?
Yeah, and I remember the day. It was when we were doing a workshop. Is that the day that you're thinking of when we did?
I can't remember the exact day, but I know that it was to do with the East. Get these plugged in, the East Durham Artists Network.
Yeah.
We were down the art block, weren't we?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just fascinated, and I know you definitely told your story last night. Like, how do you go from teaching art to politics?
It's, you know what though, like I think there was a bit in lockdown, and I don't want to. I try really hard to not try and convert people, or you know, like say I'm from this political party, you should join my political party. Yes, I do feel like that, but as a teacher, like in the classroom, I'm actually not allowed to do that. Like there's laws. I'm not allowed to go to the classroom and say, I am a Labour Party county councillor and I think that you should vote Labour. Like I would be classed as a terrorist, believe it or not, because you're trying to convert. Oh yeah, there's massive laws. So I've got to be really not careful, but I've got to be really mindful of like how I teach, how I say things, how I talk. So I'm very conscious of that, like in the real world as well. And I feel like I have the views that I have, and my views fall very strongly within like the Labour Party and what they believe in, and that's how anybody's mind works. You fall within the category of like, or you should fall into the political party that you maybe have the same beliefs in and things like that. So when I'm talking, like especially last night, like I didn't mention the Labour Party once.
You didn't?
Like maybe I should have, maybe a lot of people would have, but I don't want to be the person who's like preaching. Like I don't think it's about that. Mm-hmm. So I became interested in politics. Like I remember shortly after my dad dying, and do you remember when the milk got stopped in schools?
Yeah.
There was all this talk about the milk thief. And I remember like thinking about that, and I remember adults around us talking about that, and I remember it happening in school very vaguely. And then when I'd gone to uni and I'd come back, I'd started getting involved in things, and the things were like in the community, speaking to people, finding out like what opportunities were available for young people and things like that. And I realized that there wasn't a lot. And I thought, you know what? I think I want to be a teacher, and to be a teacher, like to apply to be a teacher, you had to have work experience. So I had to work a part-time job on the night time. I used to work in a bar, and then during the day I used to go and work at Seaham High, so Seaham School of Technology, what it was. Did you go there as well?
Yeah. It used to be over there. They've changed it, the building now, so my son goes. Yeah.
So I used to work at the roadside on a night time, and during the day.
Which bar was it? The roadside. I was in there.
Yeah. What?
I was in there last night. I went back for a little sneaky one.
I know, but like, like I understood that I had if I was going to work for free, part of my day or night had to also be like earning money. So at the night time I used to work in the bar, and the daytime I used to go to Seaham High to get the experience to apply for teacher training. So then I did my teacher training, but luckily there was a grant available for teacher training, so I actually got a grant for studying art. Like if anybody wants to be a teacher and they're listening, there are grants available. So like, depending on what subject you do, it changes, it fluctuates every year depending on what the need is for those type of teachers. So I know that at the minute, science teachers, science and maths, it's never really art, is it? It's never really, the non-EBAC academic subjects. The one.
Can I ask you as well, Rochelle, because I was going to go into teaching, right? So totally similar wavelengths of like career path from leaving college and stuff. And my friend, well, do you know Emily? Yes, you do know Emily, don't you? Emily Nolan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course you do. So obviously Jane from the art block and stuff. Emily's one of my best friends, for people who are listening, and I went through the whole school with her. I met her in nursery school, we went to college, everything, and she went into teaching. And this was at the same time when I stepped away from the bank, and I was like a little bit lost, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I was getting to the end of me art. Like I was very lucky, I was given a wedge of cash from the bank, redundancy. So I had like a time limit before I had to start making money to pay me bills. And I remember getting towards the end, and then COVID hit, didn't it? So I was like, right, do I go back to this teaching situation? And I remember my friend Emily, she just went, don't do it. Do it. And I just want, and I know like her views why, and it's all like the paperwork, the politics, as in inside school politics. Do you just talk to us about that? What are your views on all of that?
So well, as a teacher, like when I did my teacher training and I got my job, and I've been teaching now for maybe 8-9 years. It might even be 10. Am I that old? So it was actually in the pandemic. So I've always done like little bits and pieces, and I've always been part of like the Durham Miners Gala, and I've always like done, like little bits that I wouldn't really count as like hardcore politics, like where your views are maybe taken into consideration. I always had me say, like I have an opinion on that, but I'd never really gone above and beyond to like make people listen to my opinions, or like if my opinions even matter. And then in the pandemic, when there was all that hoo-ha about that bloody PPE shortage, and my family members started suffering. So like Rebecca, my sister-in-law, who was there last night, her mom, my husband's mom, works in a hospital, so she's a domestic cleaner, and they were having shortages of PPE, and like that really annoyed us, like when it starts affecting like your people. And I was like, oh my days, what are we going to do? And like there was a couple of friends at school whose parents or family members were also like working for the NHS. We had kids who were who had to be in school, whose parents and whose family members worked for the NHS, or they worked in care homes, and they were all worried about catching COVID, and there was no PPE. So I was like, right, we're going to do something about this. So gone online and thought like, right, what have I got? Like, don't have any money to buy any materials. It's going to have to be recycled. It's going to have to be out of something that we can easily get a hold of. So I think I did loads of research. Like, lockdown was horrible. Like, Mason was doing online lessons towards the end of it. Jude was one. Rob was working at home. I was teaching at home online. It was horrendous. So when I went into school, so we did 1 or 2 days in school to help look after the kids who needed to be in school. The teachers were on like rotation. So when I was in school, every time that I had a free or I had a break or on my lunch or something like that, I was like Googling, trying to work out like, what can we do, faffing with all the equipment. Like, we've got a laser cutter, we had a 3D printer. Like, I'm a design technology teacher. That's what I teach. So I'd found a group where the other DT teachers across the country had banded together and figured out, because that's what we do. Like, we solve problems. DT is solving problems. Like, we can't do this, right? We need to try and solve that problem. What can we design to do the thing that people are missing? So all these design technology teachers had banded together, and they had the exact same idea that I had. They'd set up a group, and there was a file. So someone had made a file of how to laser cut visors in 3 separate bits. So you had like the band that went round, the bit that bounced off your forehead, and then the screen. So I was like, and it was for free. Like, people who make things and patent them or copyright them, whoever made that could have easily put that up for a charge and made a fortune, but they didn't. Made it, put it up for free. Everyone can use it. Like, we've solved the problem, help us solve the problem further. So every DT teacher started passing the message on. So I passed the message on to all of the DT teachers in my trust, and I'd said, look, I'm at school, I found this file, we're going to start laser cutting visors, I think you should too. And I sent it all around, and there was a couple of other schools who started doing it as well. And we started collecting acetate, like it was going out of fashion.
I remember you asking for acetate all over the place.
Going around knocking on doors, like, have you got any acetate? And they were like, what's that? I was like, you know what you used to do at primary school with the overhead projector and like, you know, sing hymns, like that's the one, like, give me all in my lamp, I want the acetate. So we collected all that, and we started making PPE. And every time the file was edited to make better, we had to get quicker at making them. That was one of the things that we realized, we had to get quicker because the demand was so high. I think we made maybe 3,000 face masks, face shields in the end. And every day we were in school, I was thinking like, right, what bits of that design can I cut shorter? Like, does that need to be there? No, I'll take it away. Can I make the band a bit shorter? Will that speed up the process? Yes, it will. And it was just constant. And the kids were amazing. The kids were helping, solving problems. They were at school. It was like a real life project.
Yeah.
So we started doing that, and then it evolved into like face masks as well, because with textiles and fashion background as well, I was like, well, I can sew them as well. So it turned out like at school, I was laser cutting them and putting them together with all the kids and all the staff. And then I was coming home and sewing them. And then the Big Issue got in contact, and they were like, we've seen that you're distributing free PPE. Like, we need some, we've got a lot of homeless people who don't have access, they can't buy it. We're looking for someone like to donate them. So again, I went back to the DT teachers and I was like, look, there's a demand for sewn face masks. Can you help? So everyone just banded together, and I gave them my home address, and everyone either sent stuff that they'd made to me, or they sent it direct to the Big Issue. But I'm talking like, people were making scrubs, people were making face masks, people were making the little plastic bits where they went around your bubble, because everyone who'd wore the face masks for too long because they had the hair tied up, it was hurting their ears. So they made like, it was mad. And like, it was during that time I thought like, we shouldn't have to be doing this.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing it. We're doing it, but we shouldn't have to. And it was that point that I thought like, right, I'm gonna do something about it. And then that's when I'd always been a member of the Labour Party, but I applied to be a town councillor and a county councillor. And we ran a campaign in lockdown, but it wasn't like a campaign like, I don't know, it was weird. It was more like for the people, like, I believe that we shouldn't have to do this. Like, we shouldn't have to plug that gap. So we're going to do it. And I was so annoyed at like the government that was in power. And I was thinking like, you are not handling this right. Like, I can do a better job at this. I'm going to try. And that's literally all it was. It spurred on from like, I'm not saying that they're incompetent, all I'm saying is like real people shouldn't have to have real struggles.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Like if there's anything that I could change, like that's what I want to do. And that's how it started. To be honest, I didn't expect to be elected for town and county. That came as a shock. That was a lot all at once. In my first year was a lot of learning, like learning on the ground, learning, like getting things wrong. Got things wrong, hold my hands up. I think everyone does that. But now at county, you know, we're making decisions on like education, making decisions on how money's spent, or trying at least. We like the group that I'm in, the Labour Party, so we don't technically have control of Durham County Council anymore, so there's not a majority vote. The majority vote is it's not with me and my group, it's with the other group. So we can only be in opposition. So that means that you just have to question, make sure that they're trying to do the right thing. Have they got all of their ducks in a row? Like, is it going to affect anybody? Do we think that they're morally making the right decision? Like, it's that type of, it's more like quality assurance and trying to make sure that everybody's getting a good deal. Like, that's what I do it for, like trying to make sure that everybody gets a good deal and something like nobody's left out. So
do you feel like, because as soon as you started saying all of that, I'm like, oh God, anxiety's going through the roof. From a pressure point of view, do you feel like a sense of pressure or commitment? Like,
oh yeah,
you deal with that?
And some people are like, you do too much, and I don't know, I don't understand how you do it. Yeah, I don't understand how you do it. And I say the same thing every time. It only works because I want to do it.
Yes.
The minute that enthusiasm, that want, that need to try and help everybody, the minute that drops off, it'll not work.
Of course it won't. And you know what it is, Rochelle? I say this to a lot of people. At first, I used to get guilt from it because I get the same comments all the time. Like, you're always busy. Like, you haven't got time. By the way, I'm not always busy, and I'm sure you're not always busy. You've got time for your family, you've got time for your kids, you've got time for that, right? And you make time. But I'm sure you're like me. I love the process of it. I love the problem solving. I love the helping people. And I don't think I'll ever have an end goal. I just think I'll keep going. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I keep saying this to people. There's nothing wrong with that.
I have recently like been told that I'm too ambitious. Like, you're too ambitious. And I was like, oh, really? So what does that look like? Tell me what someone that's too ambitious looks like. And they couldn't answer the question. And I was like, we can't tell our children.
Nah.
Mason wants to be a fighter pilot. I would never turn around to Mason and be like, oh, Mason, how are you? You're never going to get there, mate. Look at your background. Look where you're from. Like, you're never going to get it. Can you imagine? Like, why do we say that to adults?
I know.
We would never say to kids. It's the exact same thing. I
had a conversation with Jake because somebody in his class had said, because he said, I want to be an astronaut. Somebody, and I can't even remember, it might have been a teacher, you know, I'm sure it wasn't, but I can't remember who it was, but somebody had said, no, you can't. And I went, hang on a minute. And I literally sat down and broke down the steps to get to being an astronaut. And I went, so you could do that. You can go in the Air Force. You can get that many miles. You can do maths. You can do science. And then you do that. And you just went, oh, I went, see, it's doable. It's totally doable.
It is. And it's this whole like putting people down. You can't do that. Like, I don't know. I think it's because I'm around children a lot at school. And we try and raise their aspirations, and we try and, you know, have them, like, you've got to have a growth mindset. And like, if you can't do it, if you add that yet on the end of it, can't do it yet, like, you try and help them that way on. And I just think, like, as adults, like, we lose that bit of, like, I don't know, like, what is it? That it is ambition. And like, heaven forbid someone wants to do something that's over their pay grade. Like, that was me eye rolling for anyone who isn't watching.
Awesome.
Eye roll.
But last night, Rochelle, you shared some great information about imposter syndrome, which keeps coming up all the time. But there was specifically a bit where you'd had a comment that created imposter syndrome for you when you became the leader of Seaham Town Council, and it was that kind of title, wasn't it? that caused it. Tell us about that.
So because I've been elected for context, since May 2021. So this is like the start of the second year, and you get 4 years I've been elected. So the cycle for Seaham Town Council and Durham County Council is every 4 years. It's different depending on where you are. I think Sunderland Council maybe do every 3 years, every 2 years. Some councils do every year. It costs a lot of money to hold elections and ballots and things like that. So that I think that's why some councils have a longer period of time. Anyway, that's by the by. So second year, like going to meetings, having me say, trying to take part in everything, and we have something called like the Labour group. So at Town Council we have 14 Labour councillors, and on the opposition there's 6 of them. I'm just trying to do the maths in my head. So technically, like, we have the majority. So we're the biggest party on the Town Council, and this stands for anything like any county council, any town council, any parish council. The majority party, the leader of the majority party is the leader of the council. It's a little bit different at Durham County Council because that person gets elected, like there's a physical vote where everybody, because there's over 200 county councillors, I think, where everybody has a physical vote where they vote for the leader. Like that, it's different. It's a bigger pot of money. It's more responsibility. It's a physical vote, and it gets written down on paper. At town and branch level, what happens is there's different rules. So there's we have things like constitutions, code of conduct, things like that. And apparently it's never been written in the history of Seaham Town Council that there's a leader of Seaham Town Council. But this only came about like the day after that I was voted, like, and when I say voted, I don't mean voted as leader of the town council. That vote never took place. I was voted leader of the majority group, which is the Labour Party. And for historical years, throughout the years in Seaham, that person has always been the leader of Seaham Town Council. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm like this, really focusing on what you're saying.
It is a bit technical, and that's why, well, people don't, I'm not bothered about the title, right? What I'm bothered about is that people are trying to make out that I'm lying, or I'm like maybe twisting things, or like, I think one of the comments was like power mad, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not power mad. Can you imagine if I was? Like, so I was voted leader of the Labour group, which technically meant that I am leader of Seaham Town Council, but it's not written anywhere in the constitution. So I'd put something out on my Facebook saying like, I'm happy to be elected as the Seaham Town Council leader, blah blah blah, and it got picked up by the press, and it's never been an issue as far as I'm aware, because last year there was a woman who was leader of Seaham Town Council, and it wasn't nobody batted an eyelid, and she put it out on her social media. But this time it's an issue because, is it me? Is it what is it? Why am I the issue? So then another press, the opposition of at Seaham Town Council, went to the press and said, she's not the leader of Seaham Town Council. There's not a position. Historically, there's never been a position. How dare she insinuate that she's the leader of Seaham Town Council? She's a liar. And I was like, oh my days, like, this is weird. Like, why? Like, what is happening? And I started to think like, oh my God, people are going to think that I'm a liar. People are going to think that I'm like this power hungry, mad woman who like wants to rule the world. So yeah, I didn't really know what to do about it. Like, I still don't. Like, I don't really know what's going to happen. The only thing that I have said is that in future, there needs to be concrete words written down in black and white in the Constitution to say whether there is a leader of Seaham Town Council or not, because it's been all right up until now, but now people have an issue with it. But now that people have an issue with it, if you do go back to the documents and things like that, it's not written either way. So yeah, madness. Politics is madness.
So, but this is what I wanted to ask you about, and you need to be truthful with us here, and I know you will be. And this is about me rather than you, right? So, and this is why I was concentrating so hard, Rochelle, when you're talking, because I'm very naive about politics. I'm going to hold my hand up right and say I'm naive. I've said this on another podcast with somebody, and I get that you don't need to know the nitty gritty of hard politics, right? It's about the country. It's about what goes on. And I often don't I kind of shy away from talking about it. And I know why. I don't understand it. I don't. And I remember somebody, and this is again a comment that someone made to us, God, it was when I was working in the bank, but I was in the business department.
Huh?
And someone said, and I went, I'm not really interested, or I can't remember what I said, but they said, well, you should be. So I feel like as soon as politics comes, I run away from it. I do. Yeah. What are your views on somebody like me who's supporting so many businesses, not really understanding politics?
What's the best way to describe it? So there's lots of political parties out there, there's loads. And like I said right at the very beginning, the easiest way to do or to go about it is to do a bit of research. We could all stand on our soapboxes and say, you should be this, you should be that, you should come and follow me and join my party. Mm-hmm. Which I also believe in, but not to the detriment of other people and what they believe in. For me, I'm a socialist, right? I'm a lefty. That if I was going to be categorized in a box, I'm a lefty socialist, and that means that everything that I do has to be for everybody. It has to be for everybody. And there's and there's different politics out there. There's people call it the soft left, where because we want everything for everybody, everyone's it's never going to work because you've got to think of capitalism, and you've got to think of this, and CEOs and all that kind of stuff. I agree. If you're a business person and you own your own business, you are allowed to make profit. But what you should be doing is you should be also paying your work as a fair wage. That's what I believe in. Yeah, man. And then you've got the opposite. So the very, very hard right. So you have the soft left, hard right, and the right is it's not the opposite. It's just not where my politics lie. Personally, mm-hmm. You can Google it. You can Google. I think it's called the political spectrum, mm-hmm. and it's literally a graph. And the graph goes from left to right, and then you have people who say, "Oh, I'm more centrist." So there's people who are in the middle, where they have a bit of both beliefs. And the Labour Party is considered to be more left than centre or right. But as the party progresses, different people join the Labour Party for different reasons, under different leaders. So you can't. Some people could say that the Labour Party is just for the left, but it's not true. Some people could say that the Tory party is just for the right, but it's not true. You do get a mixture and a crossover of people, and it's the people that make the party, and it's the people that decide policies, decide. For instance, have you heard of the Hassickfield Detention Centre, where they're literally holding refugees? So the refugees that have been brought into the country, right? They could be refugees for many reasons. It could be war. It could be they've got no family. It could be children. They've got no family, and they're being brought over. They're being kept in this detention centre, which is a Category 3 style prison, right? They've been ripped away from their families. There's no end date, and while they're being processed, they don't have access to certain things. As I say, it's a Category 3 style prison, and for me, in my beliefs, I don't think that's right. There are lots of other things that we can be doing for refugees, integrate them into communities, trying to find their families, trying to support them in ways, there's, when we think about Ukraine, we opened our arms for the Ukrainians, and families have started taking Ukrainians in, mm-hmm. which is amazing. Yeah. But if we flip it on its head, And if, you know, and if members of the public were thinking, right, so I've got a family here who I've let into my home, and they're from a war-torn country with Russia, and I've got a Ukrainian family with me now, right? That Ukrainian family is going to have a better chance at survival, at being integrated back in the community, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Why is it that some people have to go into a detention centre through no fault of their own? They haven't done anything wrong. And it's this, why does it have to be for some people that they can go and do this, but why do some other people have to go into a detention centre and have that style of life? And then what happens is, recently, I think it was Wednesday this week, 8 or 12, I can't remember the exact number, I should do really, they've now been deported to, is it Nigeria where they've gone? They've been deported. So you have some people from war-torn families who are allowed to come into the country, who are allowed to live with people. And then on the flip side, you've got people who are brought in, put in a category 3 style prison and deported to another country. Like, what is going on? Everyone should be treated with the exact same standard of living. Everyone should be treated the same, like, especially if it's through no fault of their own, like war, you know, Syria, Palestine.
Yeah.
Everything like that. It's massive. So like, it depends on what your beliefs are on things. I would definitely say, like, focus on one thing. Like you could think about refugee policies, how what your stance is on that, and then work backwards. I would just work backwards. Find a context that you understand, that you believe in, and then like work backwards and think, like, right, what are the parties doing about that particular issue? And that's probably the best way of finding out, like, where you belong politically. Yeah. Like, work it backwards rather than doing it the other way around.
Because last night when you were talking, I was like, right, I'm going to start somehow just to not to get right into politics, but just to start like understanding how it all works. Because Gaz, my husband, tries to explain it to us sometimes. One, my brain flits all over the place, and two, I'm like, maybe he's not explaining it in the right way. But I'm sure, and then this is an interesting thing as well, like from the fact that you came in last night in front of lots of businesswomen, and you're 34-year-old, and you're standing there, and I think it's so inspiring that this young lass is doing this in Seaham. It's brilliant. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get on this. So it's great. Thank you. I'm going to talk about the lounge, Rochelle.
Oh, let's.
Guess what? I've just looked. Day one. You've been in since day one. It opened.
I have, yeah.
I've no idea how that happened, but what I love about you, like, obviously your life's changed and you've developed yourself, and you're going places, shall we say. And I love how you ended up coming and speaking last night, because I know that there's people who dip in and out of the lounge, or some of them just go on the missing list forever. Like, and you can sometimes think, oh, well, they're not interested anymore. Like, when you say people who are not active, and there's no like pressure for anyone to be active in there. We always say, like, use it as you wish, which is one of the really brilliant points about the lounge. But then it makes you go, and this is like to tell other lasses as well, it makes you go, people are watching, because you were like, oh, I'll do that, and I was like, oh, she is still kicking about. So like, what do you get out of that community?
I look, you know what, you probably know this because I presume that you run like your own Facebook page, so you can see the stats of like who's seen your Facebook post. Like, they might not have engaged in it, they might not have liked it, they might not have reacted to it, but they've seen it.
Yeah.
And when I'd started doing my county councillor page, and we'd started doing projects and people weren't engaging with those projects, I was thinking, oh, this is an absolute flop. Like, nobody wants to go and like take their kids out and plant flowers under the signs when I did that project. Yeah. And that was all about trying to stop spraying pesticides around street signs, like trying to help the environment, trying to help that kind of stuff. So we came up with this project where we'd rather plant flowers and get the kids involved, and maybe plant wild seeds and stuff like that. And now Seaham Town Council have getting some hot water sprayers to stop pesticides. So like, the project has worked and stuff like that. But when we were posting it on Facebook, there was thousands of people who'd seen the post. but no, there wasn't a lot of people that had liked it or a lot of people that had commented. And I think I'm along the same lines as you, as like, you might not know this, but I see everything that you post on that lounge. I see it all the time. I just might not engage. I just might not engage with it. And I've really quickly had to realize that there are people, right, who maybe aren't going to engage with everything that you do, and not to be disheartened by it, because they are seeing it. They're seeing what you're doing, and in the background, like I've had friends who've said like, oh, that defense class that you did was amazing, it was so good, and off the back of, you know, all that stuff that happened. And however, on Facebook, like we got a bit of trolling for it. Like we got some hardcore comments where we thought we did the wrong thing, and yet some people are scared to comment, some people are scared to like it, some people aren't comfortable online. Like, so there are, like, I get a lot from the lounge because I see things that people put on, I read them. I will make an effort to like and comment from now on. However, just because people aren't liking and commenting, don't think that they're not seeing it, because like I'm seeing it and it's helping me, like, or seeing everybody's stories, like reading things, seeing what they're doing, like it is helpful. And it's almost like a little reminder, like, you know, on your own.
Great. You don't feel you've got to come and start getting, like, people feel like that, they're like, oh, I'm not part of it. I'm like, you do what you need to do with it. But I will say, the more, like, for instance, last night 70 women turned up, right? 70 business women, and I bet like 90% of them wouldn't have come if they hadn't started being active in the community. No. And you kind of take away from face-to-face meetups, you just kind of, like, we've really started to get on the map now because of getting out and about, and me going out and talking about the lounge, and people see me on social media and they think, oh, she just sits behind a video. There's so much more behind it. You've got to get out and about, and you'll know that. God, you'll know the difference between online and face-to-face. It's a completely different connection altogether, isn't it?
It was really good. And like, when everybody was speaking, like, you could, everyone's heads were nodding, everyone was like in total,
people going woo woo.
Yeah. You know what? And it's that thing of, if you know, like what I was saying about like imposter syndrome, like one of the easiest things you can do is go and find like-minded people, go and find your people and like talk to them. Like, how did they do their business? Like, if you want to start a business and you want to do this, like, go and speak to people, like, go and find out, go and find that help, because people are so willing. They are. And like, you're willing, like you were willing to start all of this Lasses Lounge, like from the ground up. And now look at you, like, you've got this lovely team, like Ruth's amazing, Amy's amazing, Mac's amazing, like all of them, like,
and the mid.
Oh, proper class. And they're all there for the right reasons, because they want to help people.
They do. There's no tricks or anything to it. We're helping people. And when I coach people about social media, and I try and like ask them about like a superpower, that's what it was all about. I try and ask them about like, what are you passionate about? Because it's not just about flinging stuff on social media, it's trying to get something you're really passionate about out there. It really does help you develop. I mean, the lounge would never have, I never sat down one day and went, I'm going to open this lounge and I'm going to set it up as a business. And then this is going to, I just went, I'm going to set this group up and share some stuff. And then it develops, doesn't it? Yeah. Crazy. Right then, we're going to get on to a part of the podcast, which is called Why I Lass. I am getting closer, right, to getting a jingle. Every single time I record this episode, I ask for a jingle and no one's helping us. But last night, sat in the roadside with a couple of lasses who were staying over.
Yeah.
Calling it the roadside, it's the Seaton Lane in, isn't it? When there was like Alexa and Laura and a few more lasses. And one of them's a singer, she's called Joanne. And Loza was like, you need to do a jingle. You really do need a jingle. So we're getting closer. We are for this bit. But
I thought you were going to pick up a tambourine there, whatever you were doing. I was like, what's coming?
No. No, I'm going to ask you to sing, Rochelle. this is where, so the team knew I was interviewing you,
Mhm.
and they've all asked you a question. I don't know who
No.
you're picking out. Just one, you're just getting one, so don't worry. It can be anything, though. Who is it from? It's from our Ruthos.
I used to go to school with Ruth.
But I thought because she's getting a bit familiar here, she went, if Rob, I went, all right, okay. If Rob had to describe you in 3 words, what would he say?
Well, I was going to say, what are you doing? Pretty much. But like, I tell you something about Rob, right? I wouldn't be able to do half the stuff that I do, like, without Rob.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, he is my support network.
Yeah.
So, but there are occasions where he goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just like when I brought all those patches home to build that banner for the Durham Miners Gala, like to support the refugees, I brought them home and I was like trying to sew them together. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm trying to do this." And he was like, "What for?" And I was like, "Oh, for that." And he was like, "All right." Or I'd be like sat on my phone, like making graphics for like social think tank. And he'd be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just doing this. I'm just doing this." So like Rob's life is just basically asking me what I'm doing. And then like it's funny because then on a weekend I'll say to Rob, "Oh, what we doing?" And he's like, "Oh, we're going to do this." So like if Rob was going to describe us in 3 words, it would probably be, "What are you doing?" But if I needed to pick 3 individual ones, I'd probably say passionate.
Yeah.
I don't think you could do anything without a bit of passion. Organized. I would definitely say that if you
wait there, this organized, wait there. No, this is what I want to ask you, because you're very, I'm not saying you're not organized, but lastminute.com, but that works for some people.
I can just, have you ever heard of the Kanban board? Am I saying that right?
What?
You know who Elon Musk is?
Yeah.
So Elon Musk, right, built his empire by organizing, and he organizes his staff and he organizes his analytics and all that kind of stuff. And he started out using a Kanban board. Hang on, I'm going to Google it to make sure I'm saying it properly. But basically, you know when you're talking about your vision boards,
right?
So similar sort of setup, but it's just for organizing. So you have different categories. So for instance, you have fast tracked along the bottom. I'm trying to find a picture. So you have like fast tracked along the bottom. You have a backlog, in process, a done, and a blocked column. And I write everything on Post-it notes. Oh, look there. Can you see that?
Oh yeah. Here's one I had earlier.
It's got no Post-it notes on because I'm not doing anything this weekend. So it's got fast tracked, backlog, in progress, review, done, and blocked. And I would write things on Post-it notes, and I put them on my Post-it note.
Yeah.
And I have one at school as well, so I've got a big whiteboard.
Yeah.
And it helps me keep track of what I need to do and when. And it's so easy because when I'm done, I literally just bin the Post-it note.
Right.
And I'm done. And it sounds really silly, like people, like I've tried to explain this to me mom, believe it or not. And I've tried to explain it to other people, and they're like, that seems like a lot of time to do that. But like it works. Honestly, it really does work. Like it is so clever. And I know that like I'm a big fan of digital, and I do have a digital calendar, and I do have an Outlook, and I do use that type of thing. But for me, as a maker or a creator, like I like things, like I like having things. So for me, the physical act of writing something on a Post-it note and then physically doing it and taking it off and putting it in the bin, like that's an achievement, because I know that I've done something. Like I'll laugh because Rob's the same, he doesn't want to admit it, but Rob loves writing lists. And
it's amazing. I love it. I put stuff on a list.
Just that you've done, just so you can cross it off. Yeah, that's what Rob does. It's the same like thought process. It's just a little bit differently put together.
And I brought it up just not to say like, oh God, you're disorganized, because you're not at all. It was to see how you do it, because you're very much like Amy Martin. Tell us you spoke to Amy Martin last night. You used to get on like a house on fire. Like she's so amazing at what she does, yet she does everything like 5 minutes before. Like she came into the podcast when she randomly turned up outside my house, by the way. That was the whole thing. She thought it was in person.
Oh, bless her.
I went, no, it's on Zoom. And she went, that's a good job. She went, because I was actually just sitting writing me notes then. But yeah, I think it's fascinating how different people work, because when I was in the bank, I always thought, God, you have to be so structured to get anywhere. But since I've become self-employed, so many different things work for different people's brains. It's brilliant.
Yeah, just like find what works for you and stick with it. Like, honestly, it is. It's definitely don't worry. Don't worry about being organized. If you're not organized, doesn't matter. If you are organized, mint.
Aye. Okay, what's next for you then? What is your next plan?
So I'm due to finish my master's degree, so I've got to write my dissertation over the 6 weeks holidays. That is the next hurdle, I know. And
you doing it, or are you not allowed to tell us?
So I'm doing it on well-being, so well-being and wellness within my secondary school, but also like taking into consideration the like geographical like deprivation. I hate saying it. But it's all based on like the indices of deprivation, like what the government puts out year on. So they put out data about, you know what I was talking about last night, like all of these labels that kids have, or like depending on what kind of upbringing they've had. So I'm trying to write my dissertation to see whether things that I've put in place at school. So like I organised wellbeing tutor time. I do like bits and pieces within me. Because I do PHSE and sex education at school as well, like that's my remit. Whether things that I've put in place there like affect them. So I'm going to do like student voices and find out if the kids have picked anything up, if they've taken anything home, and maybe like being a bit more open-minded about something, or it's helped them with exam stress or something like that. So that's what my dissertation's about. I still need to collect some data and do some bits and pieces and write the damn thing. But the idea is there, and you have to put in like an ethics form. So have you heard of one of them before? So I've never had to do that because I've been very artistic. I didn't even realize that you had to do like an ethics thing. I mean, oh my days, some of the questions, are you using archaeological digs to dig up human remains? And I was like, no, but that sounds amazing. Like, can you imagine that?
That's a job.
Are you using human tissue to, I don't know, something to do with a lab? And I was like, no, but again, like that sounds interesting. Like, what? And like, as I like, Rob was there and he was like, you are not going into science and chemistry. He was like, give your head a shake. And I was like, wow, I'm just saying, it sounds really good. So I'm going to finish my master's. Do I want to do a PhD? I did want to do a PhD, but that means, I don't know what that would mean. It would mean I would have to get funding. Yeah. And I think that's a job in itself. So I don't know, finish my masters and see what happens.
Wow, superwoman, man. Superwoman, mate. And if I normally ask, where can we find you, right? But obviously they're going to look for you. So what?
Yeah, the wind doesn't blow me.
What? Get where drafts dinner, you like me. What action in terms of people listening and supporting you, what would you like them to take? Do they need to come and do? Like, what can they physically do?
Like, well, two things, I think, really. Like, one of them being like, don't let anyone hold you back on like whatever you want to do ever. Like, don't let anyone put you down. Don't let anyone tell you that you're too ambitious. Like, just do whatever you want to do. And secondly, like, off the back of what you said about like, I'm a little bit scared of politics. I don't know what it means for me, things like that. Like, if there's something you're interested in, work it backwards and find out like where you sit politically, because you never know, like you might be able to make a difference in that world as well as like the one that you're in currently. I would definitely say that, like, go and find like where you could make a difference in the world that way as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rochelle. It's been brilliant, and you've inspired many of us. I'm sure you'll get lots of messages and feedback about last night. We'll all be watching it, but thank you for your time today.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been class.